Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Down to Heal. My name is Jordaine and I started this platform to kind of just bring you along my journey. And for those of you that are healing, I really wanted you to know that you're not alone. So I just thought it'd be a really cool idea to kind of have you just come along with me. And hopefully, if you're also healing, or maybe if you don't even know where to start and you're interested in it, this will kind of help you get out of your head. I know that when I started my healing journey about a year ago, I was in my head about the first 6 months, honestly, just trying to figure out if I'm doing the right thing. What should I be doing? Am I on the right track? Just so many things, just like literally just cramming my head with thoughts and what should I do and am I doing the right thing, all that stuff. So it really was hard at first to kind of realize like there are other people on this journey too, and maybe I don't have to do it alone. Maybe there's someone else out there that is experiencing what I'm experiencing and can give me advice, or maybe there's someone out there that I can give advice to, if you're starting this, or maybe you don't know where to start. Maybe this is your very first step. That is an awesome first step. At least you're trying, at least you're moving forward and you're trying to find growth and you're trying to find healing, because it's honestly one of the best things you can do for yourself. And speaking from personal experience, it's the best thing I've done for myself, I think, in my entire life, honestly. It took me a long time to get here, but I'm so happy I am. And I hope that those of you that are listening can join me. Just know this is a safe space. Before we get started, I would like to say this is a completely no judgment, no hate zone. I am pro-choice, pro-LGBTQ+, pro-trans. I am a woman of color myself. I am pro anything and everything, religious freedom, bodily autonomy. So if that does not resonate with you, I would like you to leave now, because this is not a space for hate or judgment. This is a space for healing. So I guess to get started, I'll just give you some background on myself. My name is Jordaine. I am 28 years old, pansexual, and a woman of color. I've been on this healing journey for, I would say, about a year, but I've really only ever seen the other side within the past 3 months. But what I mean by the other side is I feel like when you start your healing journey, it's kind of like putting yourself in the dishwasher. Really is. It's kind of just like throwing yourself in and you're being tossed around and you have no idea what's going on and you don't even know what's going to happen to you if this is something you want to do. Just experiencing a lot of trauma and reliving it. And I think, honestly, it takes months. I mean, you may start your healing journey like I did about a year ago, but I only really saw the light after, these past 3 months. So that's kind of how it can happen. And if you're on this journey too, you kind of understand what I'm talking about. Maybe you haven't really experienced that yet, but if you are on this journey, just know that there is light. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. And there is a way out of it, what you're experiencing. Because like I said, when you really start this journey, it is honestly reliving trauma that you have put in the back of your mind for months, maybe years, decades. I mean, it honestly is just reliving a lot of things that you don't want to talk about, you don't want to think about, you don't want to feel. And so that's why healing can be really, really hard, I think, for some people, and why people really just aren't motivated to do it, because it is a lot of pain. It is a lot of reliving your emotions and being in that emotion and working through it, understanding why you experienced that and why that happened to you, or maybe just accepting, a lot of forgiveness. So it really is like being thrown in, like a tornado, essentially, like you're just being thrown in and now you can come out, so that's kind of where I'm at. I just recently started seeing that, oh my God, this is so worth it. Like everything that I've done this past year has been totally worth it, because now I'm seeing the benefits. Now I'm in a place where my mind is so clear. I feel just so much more present and more appreciative than I've ever felt. So if you haven't started this journey yet and you're kind of reluctant to, because you've maybe done some meditation, you've maybe tried to manifest, and you just are experiencing those things you don't really want to experience, just know that you have to push through it. You have to push through to see the other side. It's really, really so important. Just speaking in my own experience, I would say the hardest thing for me would be starting. The hardest thing for me was to start it, because I feel like once I was in it, I really just realized, like, okay, I'm not going to just experience all this trauma again and relive it for there not to be some sort of benefit at the end. I'm not going to just quit now. So for me, it was really just starting it, because I knew that it was going to be this really terrible time in my life. Honestly, just a struggle. It really has been a struggle, fighting with myself and those inner voices and those parts of myself that I didn't want to meet again. So it's really a struggle, but I'm so happy that I'm on the other end and I'm coming out and I'm feeling that gratitude and that appreciation, because it is so worth it. So if you're kind of, if you're in your journey, or maybe you don't know where to start, or maybe you don't want to start, this is kind of a sign to just do it. Start it. Do what you got to do, because it is worth it. I promise you, so much more in life than being in pain. There's so much more. So I'll just kind of tell you what prompted me to start my journey, and we'll kind of just go from there. So I feel like my entire life, what I've done is I've really compartmentalized my emotions, right? I'm one of those people that I will dissociate immediately. If I'm unhappy, if I'm uncomfortable, I'll dissociate, because it's easier for me to be separate from what I'm feeling than to feel it. Because I'm someone that's ruled by my emotions. I mean, I'm a Cancer, water sign, very watery. I'm ruled by my emotions 100%. So for me, it was always hard for me to express what I'm feeling, because it was so overwhelming. And sometimes when I was unhappy or uncomfortable or angry, I just stuffed it all in, because if I let it out, I didn't know what was going to happen. I really had no control over it. And I really didn't think that anything good would come out of me expressing myself. So my entire life, I really stuffed everything in. I really just it was really like a cabinet inside myself, where I would just, here's anger, I'm going to put that in. Here's sadness, I'm going to put that in. Everything, just every emotion had its own little cupboard or its little cabinet inside me. So it was really a struggle for me. And I think that what made me start my healing journey was just, I started having more angry outbursts towards anyone. I mean, honestly, and I wouldn't say I'm an angry person. I would say that things anger me. I'm a human being just like everyone else. Things do anger me, but anger is not one of the emotions that I relate to 100%. It's not one of the emotions that I recognize, because while I do have things that anger me, anger is not my first emotion. I would say my first one is I have a lot of empathy. I have a lot of understanding. I analyze things. I don't just react with anger. So for me to have these angry outbursts, it was just kind of really shocking, because I never thought of myself as an angry person. So for me to have all these this pure rage, and just to be raging on anyone and everyone around me, was just really disappointing for me. Disappointed in myself. I was disappointed in myself, because that's not something that I ever thought I would do, ever thought that would happen. So I started having angry outbursts, and, I've been with my partner for almost 2 years now. He's amazing. He's literally helped me through so much, helped me work through so many things, so much trauma. So Joey, I love you so much, and thank you so much for helping me and supporting me. But it really took me having a good partner like him to really understand, why am I feeling this way? What is going on with me? Why am I having these angry outbursts? Especially, once I had an outburst towards him, I just realized, fuck, I don't want to be that person. I need to figure out why I'm angry, what is coming out of me, where is this coming from? And I really kind of just sat there with myself and thought, are you going to allow yourself to act out of yourself? Like, are you going to allow this emotion to control everything, to ruin everything that you've built? And, it took me realizing now that angry outburst, that angry side of myself was an exile, right? There's an episode of Almost 30 podcast, which I love, you have to listen to, but they talk about the managers, firefighters, and exiles, right? So the exile, I'll just kind of summarize a little bit. Exiles are the parts of yourself that handle all the trauma. They hold everything for you so that you don't have to. So I really had this exile inside of myself that was holding all that rage, that just anger from years. Since I was a child, I had this exile holding it for me. And I think she was finally coming to the surface and saying, like, no, I'm going to be listened to. You're going to listen to me. I'm going to get this emotion out. Like, even if it was just someone that didn't even piss me off in the way that I thought I did, it was this exile saying, you know what, my voice is going to be heard. I'm going to make sure that you hear me. So it really took me until a few months ago to realize that was what was happening. I was stuffing all these emotions in, and the parts of myself were just taking it and carrying it on their backs, and I wasn't doing anything about it. I was just having them hold it. So of course that emotion's going to come out later. Not something I thought of then, obviously, but now I'm like, of course that was going to come out. So it really took me sitting with myself after having those outbursts and realizing, like, this is not the person I want to be. This is not who I want to portray. This is not how I want to act to other people. Like, I really want to get a handle of this and really understand, why am I feeling this way? So I feel like it does take, for me, I would say that was my rock bottom. I've definitely been in worse experiences of my life, but I think that for me, my rock bottom was not having control of my emotions and not understanding why they were there, not feeling them, ignoring them, putting them to the wayside. I think that it's so important that you experience your emotions, you really feel them, and you sit in them, and maybe just understand that it's an emotion, but really, really just feel it. Don't ignore it. Don't put it aside. Really understand why you're experiencing it. Because, if you're like me and you compartmentalize your entire life, that one of those emotions can come out, and it can come out in a nasty way. So that's kind of what turned me around a little bit. And after that, I honestly started doing the most work. I think before that happened, I had already been doing, taking little baby steps here and there to kind of get to where I needed to be. But after that happened, I would say that was when I did the most work, and that was about 6 months ago. So the past 6 months, I've really made such huge strides to who I know I am and who I can become. The first 6 months was honestly just me really just trying to understand what I wanted, who I wanted to be, if I was the person I thought I was I doing something to myself that I could stop, really just thinking about a lot of things. I honestly think the first 6 months was just me analyzing and really reliving a lot of trauma because it was rough. I just remember, my first 6 months was just me on an emotional roller coaster, really. I've been in abusive relationships. The most recent one was, when was it? 6 years ago, maybe? I want to say maybe 5-6 years ago, but it was an extremely abusive relationship, physically and emotionally. And that held a lot of trauma for me, just having to relive that and experience those things and understand this is what I don't want for myself. I never want this to happen again. So it was just a lot of reliving trauma and sitting in those emotions and really understanding what I want for myself. So I would say that if you're hesitant to start the healing journey, just know that it's okay. It's okay to experience those feelings. It's okay to relive the trauma if it's for the greater good, right? Because healing yourself and growing as a human being is for the greater good. I think that is so important, especially in the time that we're in now, that each one of us sit within ourselves and really just think about what we want. Think about who we want to be and who we are and what we value. And I think for so long, it's gotten away from us. This idea of what we really want, which is, I think all of us really want to be happy. All of us really want to be fulfilled, comfortable. I think these ideas have gotten away from us. And, social media has obviously not been beneficial in that way. I think in a lot of ways it's connected us. And I think as human beings, it is dire that we connect. But I think that there's a lot in social media that can really just separate us more than anything. It makes you feel alone. It makes you feel isolated. I mean, when you see somebody on there talking about their perfect life and how there's nothing wrong, it can really isolate you. I know that's kind of how I felt when I experienced that, when I went on social media and I was in my healing journey, my first 6 months. I just remember feeling really isolated because I would see people post about how they're growing and they're making all these changes and they are just having a perfect life and, things are going so well for them. And they just meditated that morning and had, a fucking smoothie, a green juice, whatever the fuck. And I just remember feeling so isolated because I thought, that's not me. That's not what I'm doing. I'm sitting here in my room in a fucking Snuggie eating chocolate at 9 a.m. I'm not out there doing yoga or hiking or fucking seeing the world. I'm in my room in the dark like a fucking cave pig, literally. So it was just so confusing for me because I'm I see all these people talking about how their journeys are so amazing and everything's going so great for them and they're so happy they took the step, and it was hard for me. It was fucking hard for me. I just was so depressed the first few months because I'm thinking about everything that happened to me and all the things that I've done to myself and I've allowed to happen to me and how I've let myself down and I've let my body down and I've not been who I know that I am. So I think that in that way, it can be really difficult to start this process because you're seeing all these other people and you're thinking that's what it has to be. It has to be that perfect life. It has to be that perfect process. There could be no emotion. There can be nothing but positivity. And I think there's a point with social media that becomes toxic. It really does. It becomes toxic because it's not realistic. I mean, people aren't being their real selves on there. And some people are, don't get me wrong. There are great creators that are doing everything and showing you the dark side and the light side. But I think overall, it can be really hard to kind of start this journey because you just see so many examples that just aren't true, right? They're all fallacies. And I think for me, that was really isolating. And I'm sure if you've experienced the same thing or going through the same thing, you can relate. It's tough. So I really just wanted to start this platform because I wanted people to know that they're not alone, that I wasn't doing goat yoga at 6 a.m. in my healing journey in the process. I wasn't drinking a green smoothie every day. I wasn't taking my supplements, I was sitting there in the dark. I was depressed. I was under the covers. I would cry for hours and go back to sleep and then wake up and cry for hours. So it's not this super aesthetically pleasing thing. And maybe there are dark times. Maybe for you, it's going to be really dark. And that is okay because with darkness comes light. So it is okay if things are not perfect. Don't feel like you have to have this perfect journey and this perfect process because it's bullshit. To me, it's bullshit. And much respect to those people that can wake up at 6 a.m. and have fucking green juice and go do yoga, hike or whatever, Pilates, and then manifest and meditate. Much respect to them. I'm not saying that that's not valid too, because that's also a valid journey. Whatever it takes to get you there, that's fine. But just know that it's not always glamorous. And if you're not feeling super glamorous and super aesthetic right now, that's totally fine. Just know that it's okay. So yeah, so for me, it was dark. It was super dark. And I think it really honestly took me having that moment of what do I want? am I willing to be this person anymore? And for me, the answer was no. I wasn't. I wasn't willing to be that person. So here I am, 3 months after the fog, I would say like I came out of the fog and now I'm here and things are looking so bright and I'm so excited for the future. And I'm so happy that I have a platform, or I'm creating a platform that I can speak to people and I can connect with others. Because like I said, human connection is so critical. It is literally just so important that we cannot steer away from it. I know it can be hard to bring people into your life, to talk to people, to really get people to understand what you're going through. And maybe it feels like no one can relate, but that's just not true, right? There are so many people that can relate. There's so many people that have walked a path like yours, a similar path like yours. Of course, they're not in your shoes, but maybe they've taken the same path, right? So just remember, please, you're not alone. You're not alone. Like, I'm here for you, if anything. And really, I just want to say welcome. Like, come on in. I don't bite for the most part. And I'm here for you. So let's get growing.